Welcome to episode 328 of CppCast, the first podcast for C++ developers by C++ developers. I'm host Rob Irving, joined by my co-host Jason Turner. Jason, how you doing today?
I'm all right, Rob. How are you doing?
Doing okay. It is December, which is crazy. Like, this year has just flown by.
16 days until Christmas for people who are keeping track.
Yeah. You all ready for the holiday season?
Sure. We're getting some housework done right now, so the whole house is in shambles, so it's hard to think about that. But we still have the decorations up.
That seems like it'd be difficult to do in December in Colorado, get any sort of work done.
Nah, it's inside stuff, which is
inside.
why, yeah.
Okay. Well, at the top of every episode, I like to read a piece of feedback. Jason, you put out this tweet last week about different types of brackets, and you got a nice reply saying, listening to an old CppCast yesterday, I think someone called the angle brackets alligator brackets, and I kind of want that to be a thing.
I don't recall that. I don't know.
No? Yeah.
It sounded like vaguely familiar, but I have no idea who it was.
I like the idea of calling them alligator brackets, though. That's cute.
I was really just trying, I was honestly trying to be I'm doing the education thing, right? I'm like, this is how these things are referred to in the standard. And, it helps if we're going to talk about braced initialization or parenthesized initialization, that we know what we're talking about. And that is not what most people took from that.
Yeah, you got some kind of snarky comments,
yeah, I got called lots of names
things or something.
Yeah.
Don't think that's what was happening. All right. Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts about the show. You can always reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, or email us at feedback@cppcast.com. And don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes or subscribe on YouTube. Joining us today is Kate Gregory. Kate has been using C++ since before Microsoft had a C++ compiler and has been paid to program since 1979. She loves C++ and believes that software should make our lives easier. That includes making lives of developers easier. She'll stay up late arguing about deterministic destruction or how modern C++ is not the C++ you remember. Kate runs a small consulting firm in rural Ontario and provides mentoring and management consultant services, as well as writing code every week. She's spoken all over the world, written over a dozen books, and helped thousands of developers to be better at what they do. Kate is a C++ MVP, an Imagine Cup judge and mentor, and active contributor to Stack Overflow and other Stack Exchange sites. She develops courses for Pluralsight, primarily on C++ and Visual Studio, and since its founding in 2014, she has served on the planning and programming committees for CppCon, the largest C++ conference ever held, where she also delivers sessions. Kate, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Okay, so of all the things that you mentioned here, I don't know if we've ever talked about Imagine Cup.
Oh, I love Imagine Cup. It's sort of more .NET focused and more Azure focused, so it's harder for me to be part of the technical side of it these days, but it's a competition that Microsoft runs for students. And they set them a challenge and they write some software and sometimes build some hardware. And then we judge it. Is this a good idea? Did you do a good job of it? And meeting these 19 and 20-year-olds who want to literally solve world hunger or get people vaccinated or make life better for someone with a disability is just so cool. Yeah. I did some in-person judging in various places and things like a glove that can translate sign language into spoken language.
Oh, wow.
So the signer wears the glove and signs, and then the your phone or whatever says the words. Just really, they don't know what they can't do, so they're amazing.
That's really cool. Also joining us today is Guy Davidson. Guy is the head of engineering practice at Creative Assembly, makers of the Total War franchise, Alien Isolation, and Halo Wars 2. Guy has been writing games since the early 1980s. He has now also contributed to the C++ standardization process, particularly through SG14, the study group devoted to low latency, real-time requirements, and performance and efficiency, especially for games, financial, banking, and simulations, and to SG13, the HMI study group, as well as LEWG, the Library Evolution Working Group. He is trying to get a matrix class into the standard. He speaks at schools, colleges, and universities about programming, and likes to help good programmers become better programmers. Guy, welcome back to the show.
Lovely to be back again. Nice to see you all, chaps, and Kate, obviously.
So that's what the linear algebra proposal, the graphics proposal, everything is just down to just the matrix class. You want the matrix class.
That's it. Do you know what? I have suffered from immense scope retreat. A scope retreat, the like of which no engineer has ever seen. In fact, the like of which every engineer has possibly prayed for at one point in their life. I just want a matrix. I just want a standard matrix that's interoperable with other matrices, so that all the matrix stuff can have, matrix with matrix. There's so many matrix libraries out there. So many. There's probably one in every studio. And if I write some great matrix code and then somebody else writes some great matrix code, so what? They're not interoperable. So really, I just want to establish some vocabulary that says, look, this is what a matrix looks like in C++, and then maybe NumPy can stop eating our lunch.
You don't hear that term scope retreat very often.
No, I've never heard scope
retreat. You're hearing about scope creep all the time.
Yes. What is the opposite of scope creep? The opposite of scope creep is scope retreat. It never happens. That's why you never hear about it.
All right. So, Kate and Guy, we got a couple news articles to discuss. Feel free to comment on any of these, and we'll start talking about the book, okay?
Great.
Okay, so this first one we have is a C++ game programming course on YouTube. And this looks like it's actually coming from like an actual university course where the lectures were done online, probably because of COVID, and they just took all of the lecture recordings and made them available online. So if you have any interest in game programming, whether you're a student yourself or maybe you just want to kind of catch up on things, this seems like a really good resource.
It's absolutely great, actually. I'm delighted with lockdown that people have said, all right, everything's going online, let's just broadcast it. And also universities giving away material like this is pretty fantastic. And I've skimmed through a few of the chapters, and he's covering a lot of material in a short amount of time. It's like being in a wind tunnel sometimes. Just the amount of stuff he's fire hosing at you. But it's great. It really is great. If you've got the stamina, you could try watching it at 1.5 speed for that full, disengaged brain, just absorb it and bypass your consciousness effect.
And it would be like after Neo gets jacked in the first time, be like, I know game programming.
Yeah. That's. I think that's where we're going with this, isn't it? I'm looking forward to the next Matrix film. I don't know about you.
I'm not, because so far there's only been one Matrix movie, right? Let's be clear about this.
Okay, my favorite was the second, so be careful what you say.
Oh wow!
I know.
That's quite a take.
I know. Yes, isn't it?
I don't have anything else to say that.
No, you don't, do you? But it really was the second, anyway.
Yeah, this is great though.
Stop laughing, it's true.
I was gonna say, it looks like the course itself was actually given over Twitch, which I thought
it was
really
Twitch streamed. Yeah.
Well, that's where to reach your audience, right?
Yeah,
precisely that. Game programming is a great way to learn programming for a number of reasons. I mean, that's how I learned programming, but also nobody dies. If you're learning programming on, I don't know, nuclear reactors or medical imaging equipment or things like that.
Yeah, the stakes are a little higher.
Yeah,
they really are. The worst thing that happens when one of my games crashes. Actually, my games never crash. But the worst things that happen should, on the off chance one of my games crash, is you just restart it and spam the notice board with some flame.
Yeah.
And then get on with your life.
The worst case, though, really, is that someone sends you a death threat because their game crashed, right? I mean, we've heard plenty of stories about that.
Don't joke about that. That has happened.
No, I'm not joking. Yeah, that happens, right?
That does actually happen. People get very, very angry, disproportionately so. But,
It's so weird.
Yeah, but as
I think partly they believe that they could do it. Like everybody wants to write games, and so they think they could, right? And so they're like, what kind of moron would write something that blows up in this situation? Just your regular everyday programmer would write that, actually. Yeah. Thanks.
How did you manage to leave that bug in the game?
Yeah.
Do you think I did that on purpose, you strange individual?
I wrote special. If this is Steve and he's right near the waterfall.
turn off his machine and turn on his kettle. Yeah.
I have kind of wondered, just philosophically, if exploitable bugs at games are actually bugs or if they're features, because then you get this whole speed running genre of people that are.
I couldn't possibly comment.
I know that the one speedrunner I know is quite happy to find, mysterious things where if you put your shoulder in this wall, you can go twice as fast and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's profound dedication to speedrunning, just finding glitches.
Oh, goodness. It's amazing.
Wow, really? You've got so many other things you could be doing with your life. You're looking for glitches in my game.
I just watched like a 30-minute video about the latest exploit from Mario Kart 64.
30 minutes?
I think that's right. Yeah, it's crazy because they're still trying to figure out, like, can they get through this level faster on a 30-year-old game or whatever.
Wow, that is impressive. That's they need to go and work in QA. We need people like that. In all seriousness, we really do need people with that sort of obsessive attention to detail testing our games.
Oh, back in the day, that was definitely how people got hired. When I was at the university, there were people who would figure out how to send emails dated thousands of years in the future or from non-existent accounts or whatever. And the administrators would just be like, come to my office. And you think you're going to get kicked out of the university. And instead you're offered a part-time job.
Awesome.
Marvelous.
Okay. Next thing we have is a post from the JetBrains blog. And this is CLion 2021.3. Some of the headline features here are remote development, better data views in the debugger, Docker toolchain, custom compiler, type hints, and more. So sounds like a really big update to CLion, right, Jason?
Yeah, I need to install this update.
Yeah. I know the remote development is something that Visual Studio's had in for a while to go from like Windows to Linux. So it's nice to see other IDEs picking up that sort of feature.
Well, it's had it for a long time. We use remote development, when we have engineers in other buildings and we want to be able to say, and the game crashes because we haven't finished it and we haven't taken all the bugs out. and it's great being able to attach to somebody else's machine and just, get the call stack and the symbols and everything. It is a great feature. I do like CLion, JetBrains stuff. It's great. Unfortunately, making Windows games, I'm kind of bound to use Visual Studio, which is also a great product. Don't get me wrong. I think that I look back 20 years ago at using IDEs, and it'd be unfair to say it was a horror show, but not unreasonable. They're just ergonomically so much nicer. And JetBrains really, it just feels nice. There seems to be just a different kind of UI effort going on there. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm a Visual Studio person, but I have this. I had a plan some years ago to learn all the major, not just IDEs, but compilers and editors and stuff, so that if I was going to do workshops or training, that people could use whatever tool they wanted, and I would know how to turn on the blah blah option in their compiler, and I'd be like, oh, just turn on F this or D that, and we'd be fine. But then I got sick, and I haven't been able to pick my project back up again to become completely fluent in like 5 different editors and 5 different compilers. And I feel kind of the ghost of that when things like a new version of CLion comes out, and I'm like, oh, I should be good at that too.
There's too many tools out there. We can't learn them all.
Yeah. But I love the competition. It makes all the tools better.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, and then last thing we have is a post from Phil at the Sonar Source blog, and this is modernizing your code with C++20. And some of the new, triggers they have here are really nice. They have a couple here related to the spaceship operator. Jason, are those ones you want to talk about?
Oh, they're all interesting. The not always auto one. I had no idea, because I had never tried to do this before, that in a generic Lambda, you could do decal type of previous argument. I didn't know that would compile. That's interesting. But anyhow, it's just It's good stuff. Like span, I don't know about you all, but I'm still getting in the habit of using span. So having a tool tell me, oh, you should use span here. Yeah, like I'm okay with that. Starts with and begins with transformation, or starts with and ends with transformations. I think it all looks awesome.
Yeah, I love linters. Linters are great. You know, they just make your life easier and your code nicer, and it just fixes things. There are too many, you know, do's and don'ts, well, not do's and don'ts, but shoulds and shouldn'ts in C++ to hold them all in your head at once. Can you feel me segueing, by the way?
Right.
But no, having automated linters, it's great. It really is.
Yeah, when you have something, whether it's the guidelines or whether it's, hey, we added a feature in C++20, to expect a person to go through and spot all the opportunities to take advantage of something, that's totally a job for a computer.
Yeah.
You know? I was also unaware of this decal type of the other arguments to the Lambda thing. And the blog makes it sound like, wow, that's so awkward to type and it's much nicer to use, you know, templated syntax. And I'm like, it was also really awkward to know it existed. So you know, this is much more intuitive to write as well as to read.
There's a random comment in here that I kind of want to comment on the comment. Phil says, it's another possible surprise that support for C++20 is currently better in GCC and MSVC than it is in Clang, which is totally true. And I'm really starting to feel this because we're using, I mean, we were just talking about CLion, and I'm using CLion exclusively with a lot of C++20 features right now on a toy project I'm working on. And I have red squiggles everywhere because the Clang back end doesn't know that it's valid C++.
Yeah.
But it compiles just fine because I'm using GCC because I need those I want those C++20 features. So that's unfortunate.
Having said that, Clang support just got a rather remarkable fillip a couple of weeks ago because the reflection TS was dropped in to a fork of Clang, and you can use it on Compiler, and you can use it on Compiler Explorer. And if you read my Twitter feed, a friend of mine at work, a colleague at work, Clement Pirelli, he posted a blog about his experiences of using the reflection TS. And so you know, I do find my feed, find his blog, do have a read about it. It's quite interesting. And you know, the TS is quite, you know, it's interesting. It's quite nice. You can do, you can do things like get the identifiers of enums and stuff like that.
Is that English quite nice there, Guy? Meaning extraordinarily terrific?
What? Sorry? What did I say?
You said quite nice. That's
But
very high
you're
praise,
British.
yes?
Yes, I'm sorry. British English. Quite nice is my goodness, this is fantastic.
That's where I thought you were going, yes.
Yeah, okay, yes. I'm sorry, I'm a slave to understatements. It's the Britishness. Compile time sucks, unfortunately, but this is just an experimental implementation, so I wouldn't take that as an indicator of trouble ahead for reflection. Not necessarily, anyway.
Well, that does sound absolutely amazing. The cynical side of me does have to say, but that's like a C++26 feature we're talking about right now, right?
Oh, no, I don't know if it even makes
29.
Well, I think the thing is, once you get past 26, all bets are off. Really, you know, the 3-year delivery cycle is great. You know, it really is great. But I think, you know, we know what's in 23. We've pretty much shut the gate on 23, and you know, all the things that we didn't get in 23, we're going to try and jam into 26. And I think reflection is one of those things that we really do need to, you know, take carefully. And we're still trying to get executors in. You know, there's lots to go on.
But we can't just sit in a room and talk about them. People have to actually try using it. So the
Right.
TS is absolutely the precondition to getting it in any version.
It really is.
That's a good point.
Something the size of reflection. You can't just like dump that on people and say, right, here we go. What's next? You know.
We figured this all out. It's perfect. Like we're just having an argument right now on Twitter about the names of all the STL functions and how they're basically all wrong, which is terrible. You know, because they weren't, you know, shook out for years with users who were allowed to change them. They were thought up all at once.
And by people for whom English wasn't necessarily their first language as well.
Right.
You know, it's yes. Sorry. English is my first language, in case you hadn't guessed.
No, British is your first language.
Oh, hush. Oh, don't start. Don't
start that.
I do not speak Scots, nor Welsh, nor Ulster Scots, nor Irish.
I maintain that I am conversational in British English, but not fluent. Because even after like
That would go
years
well.
of watching British TV and having British friends, I mean, I've had British friends going back to like 87. I still sometimes like hear a phrase and I'm like, I have no idea what you just said.
Our slang evolves at a terrifying rate. We're half the size of Texas, and yet we have about 35 times the number of accents.
Right.
All right. So we haven't mentioned the book yet. Do one of you want to give us, first tell us the title of the book, a little bit about what inspired you to write the book? Maybe Kate, start with you.
Sure. The book has a fairly long title, Beautiful C++, and then as a subtitle, 30 core guidelines for writing clean, safe, and fast code, because we're just trying to put good adjectives in as much as we could. And that's what it is. We took the core guidelines, which is, I don't know, 600 or something, and grabbed, I don't know, a million.
Lots.
We grabbed 30 of them, and they're not necessarily the best. Sometimes they were chosen for being, easily accessible and something people could use right away, and other times because they were very far reaching, and explained them, because the guidelines themselves are pretty terse. They say things like reason for performance, and then they just like, here's an example, and they move on. And we wanted to be able to relax and spend some pages on why this is faster or safer or more obvious or something more maintainable. And so that's what you get, one chapter per guideline, stories, code, why this is a good way to live.
What did this process look like from going from like 6,000 core guidelines to 330? Was it like a roulette wheel, dartboard?
Well, we started with Kate's 10 guidelines that she presented at her talk in 2017 at CppCon.
Okay.
And she divided those 10 into a group of five sections of 2. And it seems that, well, that worked. So why don't we just stick with that? And we looked. The thing is, it's impossible to. They're all good core guidelines. They're of differing quality, but they're all great and they're all valuable. And it's very hard to make that kind of choice. So really, we were looking for any steer or any clue or any help along the way of narrowing down. So having had, with 5 sections and 2 already chosen, that meant we only had to choose another 20, and they had to fit into that structure. So it just made life easier to stick to that structure.
Okay. So
and it also kind of explains some of the motivations, because part of the problem with the guidelines is like, some of these are like, do this to make your code more maintainable. And others are like, do this to make your code faster. And so without understanding why, it's very hard. So that's why, we're like, these are to protect you from pain versus, bike shedding is bad, is just stop arguing. Just do it this way. It's not worth the conversation. And there are guidelines that are like that.
That's interesting. Do it this way because it's simply not worth arguing about.
Yeah. Do it this way because Kate and Guy said so. Really, just that should be sufficient. Really, it should.
You can put that right in the in emotional code. We talk about the defensive comment where you put, I did this because this person said it was okay. Just do that.
Yeah, do that.
So what brought the two of you together to collaborate on the book?
Oh, this is a long story.
Isn't it?
For it.
I'll just go and light my pipe.
So I did this talk, and then that same year I went to China, and I spoke at a conference in China, which if you get a chance, I recommend you do. Maybe not this year. And I met someone there who translated my talk live while I was talking, and we talked a lot. And he's a C++ aware person, and it turns out he also published books. So he had this great idea we would do a guidelines book. And he had some really innovative and cool things that made me decide I would do a book after not doing any books for like 10 years. And we were all set, but I knew I couldn't do it by myself. I wanted to co-author. So I roped Guy in to be co-author. And then when the pandemic hit, this guy sort of went cold, just stopped talking and wasn't around. And like, he's not dead. He occasionally posts on Facebook, but I don't think he's publishing books right now. But here were Guy and I all like, yes, a guidelines book. What a great idea.
Yeah.
So we found a different home for it. And then my life got super busy, and why don't we write a book turned into, why don't you write a book and I'll be helpful? That's really what we did.
Wait, so which one was the you write the book and I'll be helpful?
I wrote the book. I was helpful.
I wrote 90,000 words, and Kate cheered me on from the side, which was fine. It was absolutely fine. Kate's a busy woman. She really is. And although I am quite busy, I don't have, I just had more time available to me. When pandemic kicked off, I was working from home, and suddenly I was gifted an additional 2 hours a day from not commuting. And I thought, what should I do with this 2 hours a day? I shall write 750 words. And that's what I did. I just wrote 750 words. And even when I got writer's block, I just wrote 750 rubbish words and then came back and edited them when my writer's block subsided. I really think that's the best way to work through writer's block, is to just write rubbish and then come back and fix it. It was a great lesson. And I just wrote it, really. It was quite easy, ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have to come up with a plot, or decide how the characters would end up getting married in the end. So that was okay. And so I would say things like, I think this example is terrific, or I think this example is too long, or sometimes, wow, this paragraph should be 2 pages earlier because it's an amazing paragraph that they needed to read before they saw the code or whatever. And so I think I made it better, but I know I didn't type 90,000 words.
Yeah. Actually, arriving at 90,000 words was because we didn't know how long the book would be. We knew nothing. We just thought, right, 30 guidelines. That seems like a good number. How about 30K? Yeah, guys, 30. That's good. Okay, yeah, let's do 30. And then how long should the book be? 250 pages. And we were just plucking numbers out of the air, because we just needed a number.
That's right. And you sort of expect that your publisher is going to be really strict on you. Like chapters will all be between 21 and 25 pages with 6 diagrams. No, they're like, whatever. I'm sure it'll be good. You probably know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It seemed inappropriate to say that we didn't.
Yeah. And when we came up with a number of 250 pages, we said, right, well, how many words is that? And so I just picked the nearest book and counted the number of words on a page and said, okay, so that, I forget I'm sure we can all do the arithmetic, but I'll save you the bother. And it came up with 90,000 words. And I thought, okay, so that's 30 items, 90,000 words. That's 3,000 words an item. That's okay. That's kind of like a long blog post. So I'll just write 30 long blog posts. This will be easy. I'll have this done by Christmas. I was wrong.
Well, you didn't get it done by Christmas.
No, last Christmas.
Oh.
It's a year late, but don't tell anyone.
Too late.
Time. What is time? It's all. Today is.
It's relative.
Thursday, the 17th of January. It's been that day for a long time.
It's still April 2020, isn't it? Really?
Something like that.
Well, I feel like, to be fair, though, Guy, Kate did all the hard work, as I see it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because if you had a well-defined structure for what this book was supposed to be to start with, that saved countless hours of moving things around. And
it absolutely did. I mean, I appreciate you're being slightly facetious, but actually,
I'm only being slightly facetious. I am actually being serious, because I've done this too. Yeah.
Yeah. Early structure absolutely saved it. It really was just, okay, write 30 blog posts. I don't know about you, but writing a blog post is actually quite a lot of fun. It's nice. You think, right, I'm going to write a post about order of parameters in function signatures. And that's a really tightly well-bound problem.
Yeah. And most of us, like, if you poke us right, we will blurt out that many words, like, why is Erno bad? Blah,
Whoa, wow, you picked the one there, didn't you?
Right, like, you can nerd snipe anyone on that. They'll give you a lot more than 3,000 words, really, right?
Will. Yeah.
and that's just do that. But the trick is to do that every day, no matter how you feel.
Yeah.
Right.
I ended up doing, I think ultimately I sank into 750 words on Monday through Thursday, and then 1,500 on Saturday and Sunday. And then on Friday, I cooked a roast dinner for my family and drank wine. So it seemed like, not the right day to be writing words.
That's how you can tell you're not 20, because you're sensible.
Yes, that's right. But it meant that I was writing 4,500 words a week. So 20 weeks. It took longer than 20 weeks.
Yeah, how did it end up taking a year and a half? It should have taken 20 weeks. That's what you just
Because
said. Yeah.
I didn't want to start writing until we actually had signed on the dotted line.
Oh,
and and in the meantime, whilst the pandemic was going on, I was sitting there sort of just having ideas and writing bits and pieces here. But there came a point, I think it was December, about this time last year, where I thought, right, okay, I'm just going to write this. If the worst happens, I've got 30 good blog posts. And I started writing over Christmas. And I mean, some weeks I couldn't write. There was the ACCU conference, and the stuff happened, and I had a kind of a list of things which would take priority over writing. But generally, I think I finished the text in about 25 or 30 weeks.
Wow.
I think you had to do a whole extra chapter, right? Did we not do one and then realize these two chapters are the same? They're different guidelines, but it's all the same thing.
And there was a chapter on concurrency, and I thought this is about to be, I think after I reached 12,000 words, I thought, oh, I need to stop here. This chapter is turning into another book, and it was impossible. Some of the guidelines really are, nomically tiny, and you think, honestly, you're stating great law here in 23 words. This is not suitable for a 3,000 word blog post.
Yeah, I mean, so some things like say keep the number of function arguments low. That's here's an example of a function with too many arguments and typical stupid mistakes that people can make, and 3 ways you can make it better, and they're really easy. And then others are like they're just like philosophy. So keep scopes small.
Oh, yeah.
That is a chapter that will change your brain.
I really enjoyed writing that one so much. There's some of the chapters I imagine, certainly if you know me, you'll read some of these chapters and think, Guy is going up the wall here with delight.
I can hear a chuckle in the background.
It's abstraction. I learned about abstraction. I used to think I knew what abstraction was, and then I wrote this book and I realized I know about 1/10 of what abstraction actually is, and it just became an emerging theme in the book. And I realized that a lot of these guidelines are all about improving your abstractions. And you realize, oh, actually that's an important thing to do, isn't it? Make your abstractions orthogonal and compact, and make factor everything together nicely. And I imagine, we've got talks coming up next year. I imagine I might try pitching a talk just on abstraction. I'm sure CppCon would love a talk on 1 hour of what actually is an abstraction.
Yeah.
That's a good title right there. What actually is abstraction?
Yeah, I'm going to stop talking actually, because I could wit it I could improvise for an hour now on abstraction. It's been quite revelatory to me.
Well, that's a talk I'm working on, is also on abstraction, on the way we don't teach abstraction right now.
Yeah.
So
we should probably collaborate somewhere.
Yes. If you teach people to program, you teach them to design, you teach them to sit around and look at their problem space and come up with abstractions for, 5 minutes or a week, and then they write code and then they're done, right? And you never come back to it. And that the most important abstraction, and certainly the biggest volume of abstraction, is on running working code, discovering new abstractions in the code. And so that's the talk I got not much more than that at the moment, but a little bit more than that. And hopefully we get to have conferences this year.
Oh, please,
I get
please.
really want conferences.
I do. I'm missing all my friends. I have so many hugs to give. I really do,
I think if we have conferences this year, is everyone going to be comfortable with hugs yet or not? Might have to just temper your expectations a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I was at an NDC in Norway earlier this year. Right. That was quite hard.
I was there too, right?
You were in
a way,
in spirit,
in a non-huggable form.
Yeah, I couldn't give him a hug without looking like a strange person. So
against the
screen, cruciform. Okay, yes. Anyway, but everyone was quite friendly there. But I guess that's Norway. Conditions in different countries will change how. ACCU in Bristol is going to be full of British people. I don't know how huggy it'll be. I'm quite huggy. I don't know about Matt Godbolt. He's very huggy. But I don't know about the I don't know about the rest of the delegates.
There should be a pent-up demand,
Maybe we need coloured lanyards with our names on. So we have red lanyards and don't go away.
Don't hug me. I'm still not okay with it.
Stop. And green lanyards for hey, go here. I'll be wearing a green lanyard, obviously.
I certainly want to talk more about the book,
Sorry.
but on the note of conferences, Kate, there's an upcoming Canadian conference. Is that right?
Yes. So before all the pandemic happened, a group of people periodically tell me there should be X in Toronto. Nobody ever wants there to be X in rural Ontario, an hour or two outside of Toronto, but people want there to be X in Toronto for many, many values of X. And I always say to them, well, then if you start it, I'll help you. And somebody wanted a user group, and I said, if you start it, I'll help you. And then to my astonishment, he started it. And there's a good thriving C++ user group, a meetup in Toronto now. So that was a surprise because most people say great and then they go away, but he actually did it. And then people started saying the user group should put on a Toronto C++ conference. And that's going to happen. So it's CppNorth. If you want to go to the website, it's cppnorth.ca for Canada. The North is a misnomer, but I don't have an explanation about that that's less than half an hour long. So North because Canada is north of the United States, even though Toronto is south of Seattle and London and most of the places other than the United States. So it'll be, assuming we get to have it in July, Sean Parent has agreed to come and do a keynote. I've been twisted into doing a keynote. I think you'll see a lot of familiar faces and names. The call is supposed to go out in the new year. Connor Hoekstra is our program chair, and the early bird will probably open around then too. And we're stealing a leaf from a lot of conferences. The early bird is your discount for trusting the program committee that will make a great program. So you won't know who's coming, but if you think we can put on a great show, because we're going to, when I was a kid, we used to watch these things with Mickey Rooney, I think it was, and they're going to borrow some of Mom's sheets and put on a play in the barn and that kind of thing. Just a bunch of kids who don't know what they're doing, having fun. That I sort of feel that way about the conference. We're like, yeah, sure, we'll need 3 rooms for this, and we're choosing what time coffee will be every day, like we're grown-ups and we know what we're doing. But I think we will put on a great program because people will submit and they will come and give great talks, and I look forward to that. Yeah,
I do hope to attend, but I don't know if I will or not be able to at the moment.
Everyone's in this boat, right? Like, I don't even know if I can drive to Toronto, never mind flying, right?
Right.
So today I could not go to England. I submitted to ACCU, but today I couldn't go to England. I'd have to quarantine. And when I came home, I'd have to, I think, only just get a lot of tests, but that's annoying too. But, July's a long way away. So I wouldn't recommend to book unrefundable plane tickets.
Right.
Yes, Aeroflot still owes me for CPP Russia 2 years ago. Just saying, Aeroflot, if you're listening.
If Aeroflot's listening, well, I got all my plane tickets back from 2020, but I still do not have the refund for my train pass. I buy a British Rail pass to bomb around England on, and they're like, oh yes, excellent, we'll totally give you your money back when we get a minute. And like every couple months, I write to them, and they're like, we're very busy, very high volume. Sorry.
I can only apologize, even though it's nothing to do with me.
I really like taking the trains around England, and all the English people are like, really? You think this is nice? I'm like, you have not seen Canadian trains. This is super great.
If I'm given the choice, I will take a train over flying. It doesn't even, I don't even care. Well, I mean, to be fair, I haven't been on any of those trains that you see on like YouTube where there's like 7,000 people crammed into like one train car.
And hanging off the roof.
Hanging off the roof. I've never done that. But any train where I have a seat, I'm going to do that over flying.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a 6-hour train ride.
You should try the train from Cologne to Munich, and then try going on to Prague and going through Central Europe. They're just the best trains, and you go through the Alps, and it's amazing.
I've done some of that.
Yeah, about 30 years ago, I took the train from Klagenfurt in southern Austria to Ostend in Belgium. And it was just an amazing journey. So yeah, trains are great, and they're clean in the aircraft.
One trip from Switzerland into we were trying to get to Salzburg, and they kept wanting to route me north around through Germany and drop back down in because that's the faster route. And it was difficult to actually convince the train system to let me book the one that was straight through Austria, through the Alps. So we went through Innsbruck and took longer, but it was, Although I did learn that that valley is a little too narrow. And if you're in the train, in the valley, you can't actually see the mountains. So
they have observation cars, which you have to book 4 months in advance and that sort of thing.
Right.
Wow. Garden tools and train journeys. What's happened to us?
Well, the garden tools probably got edited out by now.
Okay.
So don't worry about that if you're listening in.
But I do look forward to having conferences all over everywhere, and to going to Europe, and to going to the UK, which I guess is not Europe anymore, and to welcoming people to Canada. It'll be just nice to be normal again, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely have that to look forward to.
I think the UK is still on the European tectonic plate, I believe is the argument here. So,
do you know what? I wouldn't put it past my fellow countrymen to try and shove us away into the Atlantic, frankly.
Dig something.
Just dig down. Come on, boys, dig under. If we dig under Britain, we can move it. Anyway.
I guess going back to the book, you said you started off with the 10 guidelines from Kate's talk. Are there any kind of other key guidelines that are maybe worth going over? Obviously, listeners should go and check the book once it's out, though. Too many.
They're all good. Take for example, I didn't have any ConstExpert in my talk because it was in 2017. And now, ConstExpert is like a much, much bigger thing. So there's a whole guideline, which is super vague, typical guideline. Use ConstExpert for values that can be computed at compile time. Like, yes, that is what it is for. Like, thank you. So use blue paint to color things that you would like to be blue. But so that's a great place to just wax poetic for a bunch of pages about what it's for, how it works, when it's good to use, what else it's good for besides just code you actually intend to ship,
Yeah, and that was a good chapter to write because we have sample code all the way through, and I've shipped the sample code in Compiler Explorer. So right now, yesterday I finished it because I knew I'd be recording this show. And so right now you can go to godbolt.org/z/cg30-ch0.0. I've memorized it, but I'll supply a link for you later. And you can check all 30 chapters out. 2 of the chapters don't have any sample code, but they have a link which says that there's no sample code here, sunshine. And you can check it all, and also there are links to buying the book and all that sort of thing. But the ConstExpert chapter was the most fun to write the sample code for, because what I did was I wrote a function to calculate sin x in radians using a Taylor expansion. And it's fascinating seeing which compilers say, oh, here you are, the answer's 7. Or which other ones say, oh, look, here's 4,000 lines of assembly for you instead. And also, how many parameters you take. If you say, I want it to 7 powers of x, then some compilers will say, oh, 7's too many, and we'll fall back to generating the code. Others will say, yeah, 7's fine. Come on, come at me. More parameters. I can do all this at compile time. It'll only take me 35 minutes, and so it's a great place to experiment with ConstExpert. I do love Compiler Explorer. Matt Godbolt is a gift to the modern universe. He's a marvel.
Yes, I mean, there's just so many things that are just easy. It gets rid of bike shedding. Like, I had someone argue with me about doing mod. If you want to see if something's even or odd, you can mod 2 and see if the remainder is 0 or not.
Yeah, that doesn't.
And someone's like, no, you should bitwise it with 1, bitwise and with 1.
Oh no, that's the one that doesn't work, right?
They both work. They both produce the exact same assembly.
And one of them messes up with negative numbers, right?
You can't compare the remainder to 1. You have to compare the remainder to 0.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks. All right,
yes.
Right.
But other than that, you're laughing. But it's like, if you wanted bitwise and with 1, if you somehow feel that's more readable, which most people don't, then it doesn't matter. You get the same assembly. And then you get in this argument about what's simple and what's readable, because if you're someone who's never met the modulo operator, doesn't know what the % is for, and maybe hasn't been introduced to the concept of modulus, then they don't think it's simple at all to say, well, I just divide by 2 and then compare the remainder. Da, da, da. They like the bitwise and thing. And the compiler's like, whatevs, we good. You're getting the same. You're getting the same bits, no matter what you type in your file, and that really stops a lot of this arguing in its tracks. You know, because it's faster. We have to care about speed. It's not faster. It's the same.
Compilers are a lot cleverer than you think.
In your book, for the examples, do you have the short URLs actually printed in the book to take you to Compiler Explorer?
No, I'll give you instructions on how to form the URL. Really, if you start at CG30 chapter 0.0, there are links to all the others. But once you've done it once or twice, you'll work out how to form your URL, and you can go and visit. We've put all the sample code in the public domain as well. We've put an explicit public domain license at the top, so we do hope everybody else will be able to benefit from that code and use it to teach as well.
That's cool.
And sometimes a chapter will have 3 or 4 versions of the same thing. So if we don't have a lot of function parameters, like here's a version with a function with a lot of parameters, and now here's one way to be less parameters. And so that's all controlled with if-defs. And then in Compiler Explorer, obviously you can define, whatever macros you want, so you can light up the different sections one at a time.
Yeah, it's just great. I was really pleased with the sample code and how that all worked out.
And it also saves you, the first couple times around, because we wrote in Word did things to code.
Oh, yes.
It does, yes.
It does. Word.
This is why I only use Markdown for writing things.
Yes.
Well, that's because you're self-publishing, aren't you?
Yeah, you have some control. They're like, oh yeah, you can use whatever you like as long as Word document.
Yeah. You're thinking, oh no, can I do it in LaTeX, please? That'd be great. No,
right.
No,
so, but you paste that code into Compiler Explorer, and you find out that's an M- or curly quotes or whatever you didn't spot. So it saved us from that. And every once in a while, it saved us from just you type the wrong thing, and it looks okay when you read it in Word, and then when you put it in an actual tool, you're like, no, that's not correct.
I think before we run out of time, we should mention where is it available? When does the book
come out? Yeah.
Opinions vary. The publisher says December 23rd. So that's cool. I don't know how many people are getting it as a Christmas present. I mean, you can pre-order it now. So if there is someone in your life who would benefit from it, that'd be great. Amazon has different dates in different countries, so I don't know what they're basing that on, but soon, very soon, it will be in our physical hands, and I can't wait.
An ebook or no?
Yes, there is a paper book and an ebook available. Yes,
okay.
And there's a bundle, so you can have both. So you can grep the ebook, but you can take the paper book into the bath with you.
That is considerably more difficult to do as a self-publisher, just for the record.
Okay.
We'll definitely put links to the book in the show notes so listeners can go and grab that. Guy, before we let you go, you also have something coming up soon, a workshop, right?
Yes, I'm writing or developing a workshop with a lady called Stephanie Brenham, who is in Toronto, and we want to give game developers the opportunity to be better game developers. So it's a C++ training course for people who want to be game developers or who want to, try that sort of thing. We really have just started on it, so we're hoping to present it a couple of times next year if we have in-person conferences. And it's a lot of fun actually putting the material together. It's about we're aiming at about 15 hours of material. So look out for it. Do come and attend. It's a great excuse to go to a conference. Actually, is to go to the workshops before and after. Because I know Jason, you do plenty of workshops, don't you?
And in a normal season of my life, yes.
Normal season of your life, yes. Obviously, things are a little bit different now. I'm also speaking at ACCU next year. I'm doing the opening keynote, which is a terrifying privilege.
It's fun. Opening keynote's the best because then you're done for the rest of the conference.
That is the single consolation that I'm drawing from this offer, frankly, is that I can at 10:31 I can walk off the stage and go and drink tea, and
free person
slump into a chair.
But also, like, you're under no obligation to revise your talk at the last minute because of something brilliant
Right.
that someone else said. And ACCU especially is a place where someone says something Monday morning and Monday afternoon someone mentions it in their talk, and they've got a slide for it, you know.
That's one of my favorite things actually about ACCU is it's about the right size for everyone to be interactively updating their talks as the conference progresses.
Yeah.
And since it's the opening talk of the conference, if anything goes wrong, they can't blame you because they're clearly, are still sorting out the bugs for the conference.
That's right.
Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it?
That's great.
It's win all round, really.
Well done.
All right. Well, it was great having you both on the show today. Is there anything else you want to plug or anything before we let you both go?
Warhammer 3. Warhammer 3 is the game I'm currently working on.
When's that come out? I am looking forward to that.
It's coming out in February.
Okay.
We're very close now. And please buy it. It's great. Buy all our Total War games, frankly. They're all amazing works of genius.
With no bugs.
With no bugs. None at all. They're perfect in every way.
Just a handful of user-specific settings that are...
Yeah, that's right. If you're one of the users who's been chosen, I'm sorry, but we hate you, obviously. They're great. They're great. You know what? Hundreds of hours of entertainment per title. It's I'm going to stop talking now. Actually, really, it's just getting embarrassing.
Okay, anything else you want to tell us about?
No, I'm hoping to have a slightly more peaceful 2022. A little more flying, a little less being home. But a little less deadlines. I am updating a bunch of my Pluralsight courses to be C++20 aware. That'll keep me occupied for a while.
Can you patch those courses, or do you have to redo the whole thing? How does that?
So you can patch them, but they're trying not to because it turns out that there have plenty of people who can't upgrade. So if all the courses are always on the super latest greatest and you are an enterprise user who can't move to the super latest greatest, then there's no course that's good for you.
Okay.
So they're like, you know what? Leave your old course alone. It's not hurting anyone, but do one for the latest version. And so right now I'm working on a what's new. So it's entirely like, spaceship operator and coroutines, like stuff that is actually new. But then I'm going to go to existing courses and make C++20 versions of them. So the algorithms course is going to get quite a makeover.
Oh goodness, there's a lot of updates there. Yeah.
Yes, that's going to be a big project, but it'll be worth it because I think the algorithms are getting more usable now. They got some of the problems with them are in my opinion, ameliorated by what Ranges brings.
Cool, nice word.
It's like a professional word maker or something.
All right. Well, Kate and Guy, it was great having you both on again. Looking forward to the book. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely lovely to be back on.
Yeah.